I really had no idea you were hoarding so much money. Plus, we're married, so there's no issue in using our shared assets, right?
Yeah.
Hiding it is just mean-spirited. My husband and his mother, ganging up on me, kept talking as they looked down on me. Fed up with their attitudes, I decided to confront them with a reality check. By the way, have you checked whose name is on the bank account? What? My name is Emily, and I'm turning 42 this year. I've been married for 17 years, and I used to work at a company before that. After getting married, I quit my job and now work part-time at a local supermarket. I met my husband, Mark, at work, and back then, I thought he was just a normal, kind person. But he changed drastically about 6 months into our marriage. One day, while I was preparing dinner, my mother-in-law, without any notice, suddenly visited our home. Mark was still at work, so thinking she might have some urgent matter, I let her in. She sighed heavily upon entering the living room. "Emily, you're just lazing around watching TV at this hour? Mark is out there working hard, and you don't feel guilty?" Huh? Though I had the TV on, I had been in the kitchen preparing dinner until just a moment ago. I might appear idle, but I had finished household chores in the morning and had just returned from grocery shopping after my part-time job. Believing that I was doing everything I should, I felt a mix of frustration and annoyance inside, but I still responded with a polite, "I'm sorry." Then, my mother-in-law, in a showy manner, snorted and entered the kitchen, only to start criticizing even the dinner. "Oh dear, is this all you're making for dinner? Poor Mark, working so hard, and this is all he gets. I've planned curry and a salad for tonight. The salad is in the fridge. To feed Mark such a lazy meal, what kind of family did you come from?" Not content with just criticizing me, she also insulted my parents. At this point, I couldn't help but get angry and asked her, a bit sharply, "Did you need something?" She widened her eyes in mock fear and retorted, "Oh, how scary. It's just dinner, no need to get angry," then plopped down on the sofa and started watching TV. "What is it?" "It's not, what is it? Shouldn't you normally offer something to your mother-in-law who came all the way here? What do you mean? You don't even offer tea. How inconsiderate. Poor Mark." Tired of hearing my mother-in-law repeatedly emphasize how a poor Mark was, I served her tea. To that, she complained, "This tastes cheap," and started nitpicking everything. Back then, I was younger and avoided confronting her, thinking I should be considerate towards my husband's mother. However, she took our silence as consent and began visiting frequently, constantly complaining about my cleaning or accusing me of being lazy. Eventually, overwhelmed by her constant criticism, I talked to Mark about her. "Hey, can you ask your mom to reduce her visits a bit? Why? Is it such a bother when she comes? You've seen it, haven't you? No matter how hard I try with cooking or housework, your mom always complains. That's because she wants you to do better, Emily. But it's hard to manage dinner when she comes unannounced. If it bothers you, tell her yourself. But don't forget she's just worried about us." Mark always brushed off my concerns, never taking them seriously. No matter how hard I tried to keep the house clean or improve my cooking, my mother-in-law, like picking at the smallest faults, would never praise me. Once, she brought vegetables that were clearly nearing their expiration date, so I used them for dinner. Then, with a contrived sigh, she complained, "Serving such wilted vegetables to your husband and his mother, how could you?" And I began to realize she was just looking for reasons to criticize me. Because of her relentless nitpicking, I decided to talk to my father-in-law. I gently conveyed how troubling it was to have her come unannounced so often, and how difficult it was to prepare meals for her. Surprised, he apologized profusely, not knowing she had been visiting us. "I thought she was out dining with friends. I had no idea she was bothering you. I'm so sorry." "Oh, no, you don't have to apologize. I've been giving her money for dining out, thinking she was using it. You haven't been accepting it, have you?" "Unfortunately, no." "Oh, I'm really sorry." My father-in-law was genuinely apologetic throughout our conversation. He promised to speak sternly to my mother-in-law, so I didn't mention her bad behavior anymore. Just when I thought I could relax, I received a scolding call from her. "Hello? You, tattling on me to my own husband, how ill-mannered can you be?" "What? I go out of my way to check on you for your own good, and to be repaid like this, I never expected such ingratitude. That's not it, it's not about repaying with ingratitude. Anyone else in your place would be begging for forgiveness, and here you are being a nuisance. You should be thanking me for the upbringing I'm giving you since you obviously lack it. But it's difficult when you come over unannounced. Does a mother need permission to visit her son's house? My parents wouldn't do something like that. So brazen. When you marry into a family, you should adapt to their rules. Regardless of what I said, she just got more heated and eventually started yelling so loudly I couldn't understand her, then hung up. I thought about consulting my father-in-law again, but it seemed futile, especially since she likely called when he wasn't around. Despite a slight decrease in visits, my mother-in-law never stopped coming over. My husband, cheered by her visits, would share his work frustrations with her, making it unlikely he'd ask her to stop coming. Seeing my husband's attitude, my mother-in-law also became more cheerful, and then they both started to blame me together. Emily, you just don't show enough respect to my mom. Right, Mark, tell her more. And I barely get any allowance, even though I'm the one earning. How terrible, what a wicked wife you have. They continued to complain about the meals I prepared and chatted happily in the living room I cleaned. While I was washing dishes, my husband would demand, at least get the bath ready, expecting me to prepare everything from towels to pajamas. Rather than reprimanding him, my mother-in-law sympathized, poor thing, having such an inconsiderate wife. I consulted my father-in-law again, receiving another round of apologies, but the core issue with my mother-in-law remained unresolved, leaving me exasperated. During those days, I noticed something. One day, I realized that a necklace passed down from my mother was missing. Even when I asked my husband, he stubbornly claimed ignorance. He coldly brushed me off, suggesting, maybe you lost it due to your own carelessness. Regarding the necklace I was certain I had placed in the drawer. The truth came out when my mother-in-law arrived for dinner one evening. That necklace. Oh, how shallow to covet what another person wears. Around my mother-in-law's neck, there it was, my missing necklace. It was a unique piece with a slightly unusual decoration, unmistakably mine, and there was no way I could have mistaken it. She was wearing it right in front of me. Please give it back. How dare you accuse me of theft? You not only covet others' possessions but also label them as criminals. It shows your upbringing. As she smirked triumphantly, I couldn't help but reach for the necklace. Then she raised her voice deliberately, and at that moment, my husband, who had come home earlier than usual, saw me reaching towards her and violently pushed me away. I hit the wall hard and crouched down. Looking down at me, my husband, while holding his mother, began to denounce me. You're just as my mother said. You've been picking on her behind my back. That's right, Mark. Emily was really terrible to me. I just wanted to get along. That's not true, listen. The necklace your mother is wearing right now is mine, the one I said I lost. I don't want to hear excuses. Mom, how about we go out to eat today? And you better reflect on your actions. You're so kind, Mark. You're such a good son. With those words, my husband left with his mother. At that moment, I felt a surge of anger and frustration, not just at not getting my necklace back, but at my husband for taking his mother's side without listening to me. I decided it was time for revenge. That same day, I sought advice from my father-in-law yet again. He apologized and listened carefully to my story. He agreed that my mother-in-law's actions were excessive and expressed his own frustrations with her. Hearing this, I decided to set a trap. Then, once again, my mother-in-law came to our house, unchanging in her habits. As usual, she flaunted her necklace, obviously enjoying my reaction. I intentionally asked her, I forgot to buy something, could you please look after the house for a little while? Normally, she would have complained about being asked to do something, but this time she smiled and said, sure, that's fine. Take your time if you need to. I know you're always busy with the house. Thank you. I'll be back in about 30 minutes. Saying that, I left my mother-in-law at home and went out. Sitting alone in the supermarket parking lot, I felt as if I was testing the malice of someone close to me, my heart pounding rapidly. If I could obtain decisive evidence, I would be able to exact my revenge. Yet, part of me hoped that my mother-in-law and husband would realize their mistakes and change. After exactly 30 minutes, I returned home. I came back to find my mother-in-law and husband enjoying dinner in the living room. Sorry, we started without you since you were late. Today's dinner was more modest than usual. Don't you feel sorry for Mom? But I asked her to watch the house because I had forgotten something. Enough with the excuses. Be more careful next time. Seeing my husband's increased arrogance in her presence, I sighed in frustration. Looking at the pot with only vegetable scraps left, I couldn't help but feel disdain rather than anger at my husband for not considering leaving any food for me. There seemed to be no future where these two would reflect on their actions. After cleaning up from dinner, I checked the trap I had set after my mother-in-law left. As I suspected, it had been triggered. Seeing this, my husband's mocking smile appeared even more repulsive than ever. His triumphant look was eerily similar to my mother-in-law flaunting the necklace, and I couldn't help but laugh. Then, sooner than I expected, the day of revenge arrived. On his day off, my husband called me to the living room with his mother, both of them in high spirits. Seeing the two of them in such a good mood, I sat opposite them, pretending to be unaware of anything. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked. "About what?" "About the bank account. If you had that much money, you could have told me. Now you can show some filial piety to Mom." "I don't understand what you're talking about." "Don't play dumb. We're talking about your bank account." I let out an audible gasp. They, without a hint of doubt, happily spread out a quotation for a duplex house on the table. "Mom and Dad, you and I, we bought a duplex house together." "Bought it? What do you mean?" "You're slow on the uptake. We used the money from your account to make the contract. Buying it outright means no interest, it's smoother this way." "Wait a minute, why are you deciding this without me?" "Emily, you really do hate me. That's why you don't want to live with me." "Hey, cut it out. That's rude to my mother." "It's rude? What about you two, touching someone else's money without asking?" "That's far more rude." "You too?" Such ill-mannered people really do have bad mouths. I had to fight back laughter at the two of them saying whatever they wanted. Somewhere inside, I was dismayed at how terrible I had become, but these two were the ones who made me this way. My resolve for revenge didn't waver. We found a great new house, so we went ahead and signed the contract. "No matter what you say now, it's too late. I had no idea you had saved up so much. Besides, we're married, so there's no problem in using our shared assets." "Yeah, hiding it is what's really mean. By the way, did you check the name on the bank account?" "What?" My words froze them. Unable to hold back any longer, I burst into laughter. They peeked at the bank account, then looked at me with faces drained of color. "What the heck is this? What you see is what it is. Why is it in this man's name? I never said it was my bank account." "So what are you saying? You stole his bank statement, you thief." "Who's the thief?" "You two broke into my locked drawer and took it." "That's because you were hiding it so carefully." "Really? So it's okay to steal something just because it's hidden? Is that the upbringing you received? Don't talk back to my mother like that. You should watch your own mouth. Do you know why your father gave this to me?" Why?" "I heard from your father why your mother has been spending so much lately. You two were taking trips together while on leave, right? Well. And you told all sorts of lies to the company for being absent, like I was sick or went back to my parents' house. When I told the truth to your boss over the phone, he was speechless." "What?" Realizing their situation was deteriorating, the two looked at each other with troubled faces. But I was past the point of forgiving them. As we sat in silence, the doorbell rang at just the right moment. I went to the door and brought the guest into the living room, making them gasp in shock. I had contacted my father-in-law when my mother-in-law first came over. "What are you doing here?" "I've said it many times, don't trouble Emily." But. There's no but. When will you two start acting responsibly?" "Father, she had your bank statement, and with it. How dare you treat her like this?" "I didn't raise you like that. You're an embarrassment, not taking care of your wife properly. But you took care of me. Took care of you? I worked hard so you wouldn't have to struggle, saved money for you, let you do what you wanted. And now what? You expect me to overlook how you treat your daughter-in-law? Well, that's... Throughout, any attempt at an excuse was met with a fierce response from him, leaving them speechless. They shrank and hung their heads as he delivered the final blow. That bank account I entrusted to Emily? I told her it was a nuisance fee because you two wouldn't listen and kept bothering her. What? You even stole that money to buy a house. What more can I do for you? With nothing to say, my mother-in-law was taken home by my father-in-law. Before they left, I pointed to the necklace around her neck and successfully retrieved it. Seeing her reaction, my father-in-law grasped my mother-in-law's head and made her bow. In the now quiet living room, I told about getting divorced to my disheartened husband. Why? Why? After all that's happened, you still think we can stay married? But you're only mad at my mother. I'm appalled at you too. No. I won't divorce. Then shall we go to court? I'll expose everything you two have done to the court and your workplace. What? Yes, I've recorded you two breaking into the drawer and taking the bank book. I have it all on video, the both of you desperately trying to break the lock. That's a lie. You call others thieves after doing such a thing. What kind of upbringing did you have? Why? How could you? All of that will be made public, and you'll have to pay back the $300,000 you took from your father, plus alimony to me, and legal fees. What will you do? How can you say such awful things? Still don't understand? Should I get your father to lecture you again? Deflated, my husband agreed to divorce, and I finally became free. I received the $300,000 from my father-in-law as compensation and alimony from my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law. They ended up working hard under my father-in-law's supervision to pay him back a total of $600,000. Later, I received an email from my ex-husband begging for reconciliation, but I ignored and deleted it. I've been feeling better, free from the source of stress, and enjoying my freedom with the money my father-in-law gave me.